Hello everyone and welcome to The Punter, your guide to the value in the sports betting markets. Great to have you along. The summer has officially started, which is big news. This is the first time I've worn long trousers for some days now. Probably very relieved, especially those of you watching in 3D. I'm delighted to have with me in the studio our betting expert, Alan Alger from Blue Square. Al, great to see you.
Yeah, how you doing, Nick?
Really good.
Yeah,
really
good stuff.
good.
Good
How
stuff.
about you? Struggling a bit with the heat?
Yeah, the sun's out, you know, it plays havoc with my face.
Us
so
pasty lads.
yeah.
It's not easy.
Lots of wide shots, please, lots of wide shots.
Now, this is the first time that we've spoken for a while. Tell me a little bit about the summer markets, and obviously the football's not on. So where do you guys attract most of your money at the moment?
Yeah, I think we always pinpointed July after the Euro 2012 final, which was on the 1st of July, as one of the difficult months for being a bookmaker, because although the racing action continues and it was top quality for a while until the rain started coming down, we really need to replace the money that we take on football, and football fast becoming one of our biggest markets,
right?
Slowly rivaling racing as taking over as the biggest chunk of money that we actually take. So we need to find those other markets, and obviously the other sports come into their own. You've got the tennis, you've got the Formula One, and this year you've got the Olympics.
You really have. Just 3 days until the Olympics kicks off. Amazing that it's finally here. We're going to take you through all the betting opportunities in the Olympics. We're not going to start there though. We're going to start there with cricket, because the Test match wrapped up yesterday and ruined everyone's summer. They can still come back though. We're fine. I promise you, we're fine. England South Africa is one game in a 3-game series. Al, just give us an overview of the cricket as a market and how much interest you get in the Test matches.
Yeah, you get plenty of interest. Obviously, this year Australia come over for a little while without actually playing any Test matches. The Ashes not until next year, but South Africa over here for a 3-test tour.
Kind of the World Championship, isn't it? One, like the top 2 teams. So there must be a bit of interest worldwide.
Yeah, plenty of interest. Not as much as an Ashes series,
right.
But obviously this is quite competitive. There's lots of other things going on, but as I say, it's one of those sports that does come into its own around this time of year, and the markets are suggesting we've got a nice competitive market up until what actually happened in the first test.
Yeah, a little bit of a collapse, which is not good. Let's get to some odds, shall we? We'll check out the markets for you. First of all, the outright markets for the Test series. We're going to go to live, actually, to Headingley, the venue of the second Test, and our betting expert, Chris Graham, is there for us. Chris, I know that you're there to help with the tees once the match kicks off, correct?
Yeah, that's all I'm worth, Nick.
Yeah, no, well, I just know that you have skill sets in that area. You got some odds for us though as well, right?
I do indeed. Up in Headingley today, and thankfully it's just as sunny in Yorkshire as it is in London. How's the tan looking? Huh? I've been working hard on it for the last 24 hours. Looking at a lot of girls as well. It's been amazing. Just good to see everyone looking great on this wonderful weather. Anyway, there's the odds. And first Test, we expected it to be quite a close affair. The draw was backed into odds on, but of course it was nothing like that, was it? It really was an absolute pummeling dished out by South Africa to England. And as you can imagine, the series outright odds have massively changed. England now 6-1 to recover here, to win the second Test and the third Test. I think that's a big ask. Actually, shot is 5-1 in places. I think that's a horrendous price, to be honest. 3-1 draw. But for me, South Africa, it's a short price, but 4-9. This is a team who just, let's not beat about the bush here, absolutely crushed England in the first Test. It was a humiliating defeat for England. It really was. And South Africa never lost on the road since 2006. Never lost a series on the road since 2006. Lost just one series in 19 as well. In absolutely blistering form. I know it's a very short price, but that 4-9 for me is definitely a fair price.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Al, would you go along with that? They have a 1-0 lead. They're potentially the best team in the world. What price should they be, or is that about right?
Well, they do, and as Chris points out, obviously the top price there for England to win the series, bearing in mind that they're 1-0 down in a 3-test series, it is effectively them to win the next 2 in a double.
Yeah.
And you've got to take a lot on trust there to back that 6-1. First of all, you've got to take on trust that the next 2 tests will actually produce a result, and the weather won't get involved and produce at least one draw, because then your bet's over regardless of whether England were playing well or not.
Right.
The draw The one in the middle does require at least one draw and then England to win. So then you are actually relying on the weather. The only one where you've got a nice positive lead into it is the 1-0 victory for South Africa at the moment. Even if this next one ends in a draw, that has been back today. The weather does look as if it might turn towards the end up at Headingley, and you might not get much play towards the end.
Okay.
So therefore, I think the only sensible thing to do if you want to get involved in the series market now is take the odds on. I think it's a pretty good return.
Okay, a bit of consensus to start things off. Let's check out the odds for the Headingley match, the second Test match specifically. Chris, you got those for us?
Indeed I do. So this test starts in nine days' time, a week on Thursday, up in Yorkshire. And England 2-1 there, and South Africa the same price. Look how things have changed. Look how things have changed. England were about 11-10 to win the first test. South Africa, I think as big as 72 if I recall correctly, and the draw changed dramatically the days leading up to the Oval Test. But for me, what is the psychological impact on that first test to England? How can England, that's a real blow. The England team have been building up fantastic over the last 3-4 years under Andy Flower. That's a huge blow. I mean, South Africa, only the 5th side ever to win a test conceding just 2 wickets. It was a really destructive defeat. So, for me, if I'm back in England here, I'm opposing England, the main question is, will that crushing defeat earlier this week have a psychological impact with regards to the rest of the series?
Chris, are you surprised that they're the same price for this match?
I still think, there's a lot of faith with England. I think, like I say, the last 3-4 years they've built up a tremendous test side, #1 side in the world, of course. That's absolutely key. So still a lot of faith, a lot of support behind England. But as you can see, Nick, the change in odds are palpable there, and that's why England are no longer 5-4 to win a test, and now 2-1. So faith is ebbing away, but it still remains.
Okay, Al, you got a view?
I have, yeah. As I say, the long-range forecast does suggest that there might be a bit of rain around in Headingley when this starts next week. And the other thing that I would say, let's take some positives for England. Okay, the middle order played reasonably well in that second innings and got the kind of scores that you would want from them to build an innings. It just so happened that the openers didn't rack any decent scores up. Cook got 115 in the first innings, so I think looking towards him, you would say that he's capable of a big score, but then obviously got a duck in the next one. And then someone like Peterson just needs to focus. I mean, we know he's got talent, yet it was ridiculous that he surrendered his wicket for 16 in that second innings, because at least the draw may have been on up to then, or at least put them back in again, and they just fell apart. The negatives are, as Chris mentioned, you need to take 20 wickets to win a test match, and we only took 2. And that is a big
gap
factor.
there.
There's a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at some individual bets you can have then. Top batsman we'll start with. And Chris, you got that one for us?
Indeed. And I guess the market here is completely dominated by Hashim Amla after his astounding performance at the Oval earlier in the week. The first guy since 1990 to score a triple century in England. Can you remember who got the last one? It was Graham Gooch against India. I think it was 3-3-3 against India in the summer of 1990. That wonderful year for English sport, that wonderful summer for English sport, of course, back in 1990. And here he is here, 1-5, so really difficult to back him now at that really short price. He's got a huge lead, but it's not an attractive price, is it? Let's be honest. The one for me, you can actually get a lot bigger, is Graham Smith here at 5-1. He racked, I think it was 135 he scored in the first test. He's still within sight of sorts of Hashim Amla. 5-1. I think he's about 9s with other firms. That appeals. And he's actually just gone back to South Africa to see the birth of his first child. So that could inspire him. That could inspire the great man to rack up another couple of huge innings in the next two tests. So Graham Smith for me at 5-1 in this lopsided market.
Interesting. I actually quite like the 5-1 on. I think that's actually a little bit generous. I mean, it's pretty tough for him to get overtaken. Bear in mind that he can increase his total, isn't he?
He'll be increasing his total. This isn't a 5-test series. This is a 3-test series. The other guys have only got 4 more innings maximum. And if South Africa are actually dominant or the weather gets involved, then they won't get those 4 innings.
Honestly, if you're looking for something to put in a double or something like that, I think that's great.
I mean, listen, I'm not here to tip up 5-1 on shots. As a bookmaker, you know, punters will be watching saying, yeah, you'd love us to back that, you know, with all our money. But in some respects, as you say, it's one of those that could boost an accumulator because, I mean, he's individually, just in the South Africa, just from the terms of top South Africa batsmen, he's 7-1 on. Now, he's competing with the English that have got Cook at 115 as their leader at the moment. So he's way, way ahead of him.
That's fascinating.
So when you might as well throw in the English as well and take the 5-1 on.
It's funny, value's value, whatever the price is.
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at the bowlers then for the same market, Chris.
Indeed, and as you can imagine, South Africa dominating here as well. One man in particular, of course, Dale Steyn. There we go, there's the man. A quiet first day, I don't know if you agreed with me there, but he came bouncing back in the second innings, taking a five wickets in that, his first ever 5-wicket haul in England as well. 11-10, which I think is actually a decent price. He is the best bowler here, South Africa, and he started really well. 7 wickets in the first test, setting him up really nicely. Morco, of course, had that great first innings, took 4 wickets in the first innings. The English bowler as well, very, very disappointing first test. I wouldn't be backing them, that's for sure. So for me, Dale Steyn, I expected him to be odds against. He's actually 11-10. Tuck in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, again here, you've got him thrown in with all the English bowlers, and as I said, England only took 2 wickets, Anderson and Bresnan. So they're starting from a base of 1. Now, if someone said to you to price up a handicap just based on 2 tests where Steyn and Morkel were starting with 7 and 5 respectively against Anderson and Bresnan with 1 each, you would probably expect them to be odds on. The only reason that Steyn's not odds on is because of Morkel getting 5 wickets. I think you can totally discount the English from that market. They need an incredible performance. Obviously, if they do have an innings where they do dismiss the whole of the South Africa batsmen, then 10 wickets will be shared around. But I think starting from a base of 7, that 11-10 is good value. Morkel is the only guy that can catch Steyn here.
Great stuff. Bit of consensus in the studio. Promise to change all that in the remaining parts. Bit of value as well, even if at short prices. Now we're going to talk about the biggest sporting event on the planet, the Olympics. All of your betting and value on that coming up after this. You won't want to go anywhere. Welcome back to the Punter. We're going to be talking Olympics. It's finally here after all the years of waiting. The greatest sporting spectacle on earth starts in London on Friday. Now, we know it's huge. We know it'll be watched worldwide by hundreds of millions. But how big is it from a betting point of view? You can bet on a number of events. How much action are you expecting? I
think we're expecting a lot. There's been some discussion in our office with marketing and people getting involved saying, you know, we think this is going to be huge. And I would say that it will be bigger than other Olympics because of the fact that it is in our backyard. Right. But it might not be the kind of thing where people need to have a bet to watch an event. By all means, we want people to, but what I'm saying is people might not have a view on something like the archery that we've priced up or the rowing and things like that. And again, with the 100 metres final, I think people could easily watch that without having a bet. But there are plenty of special markets to get involved with, and we've tried to spice things up at Blue Square by offering loads of special markets on those things that do most of the time, as we saw in yesterday's show, come down pretty much to a 2-horse race in most markets. OK, well, I think we're going to look at some special markets. We're going to transfer live to the Olympic Park and our betting expert and former, now disgraced G4 security advisor, Chris Graham. Chris, what have you got for us?
This is much better than Yorkshire. It's a bit burny though. Huh? I've got. You've got a massive torch. Well done. That's huge. Yeah. A lovely big phallic torch. Anyway, we're looking at opening ceremony views, a market that always fascinates me. I'm always obsessed by TV ratings and viewers figures and stuff like that. Just to put it in context, the biggest the UK's ever recorded, I think, was 31 million That was on Boxing Day 1986 when Den Watts served Angie Watts with divorce papers on EastEnders. But anyway, that was a long time ago. I don't think we're going to get that kind of audience. It's a Friday night, people get out in the pub after work having a few drinks, so unlikely. England against Italy took about 20, there was about 23 million. That was a Sunday night, of course, where people were more inclined to stay indoors. So this is a big event, let's be honest. This is huge. So for me, I think 22 to 26 million is a very realistic target for the BBC. It's only on one channel as well, and you know this I think this will unite the nation certainly by Friday, and I think 72 is where I'd put my money there.
I've got a question about those odds, which either one of you can answer. If it's very likely to be under 22 million, why is the line effectively set there? Why is it not? Why can't you bet on smaller totals?
I'm just wondering. I know that we've priced it up. We've actually priced up a two-way line at 24, which makes it about 5 to 6 each.
Okay,
each
that
side.
makes more sense.
So that market could have been taken by another bookmaker that's actually seen that their line was maybe a bit out on the under, and they've actually cut theirs to 4 to 7. So
this is a fun thing to bet on. What do you like?
It is. I would like the under, based on some of Chris's reasoning there, and I think the main thing is that if people are coming back from work or in the pub, I think this is the kind of thing that people might say, right, I'm not doing anything Saturday, I'm going to Sky Plus this, I'm going to fast forward through all the, you know, the boring bits or the bits that I don't particularly like, and I'm just going to pick and choose my best little bits out of it at my leisure on Saturday rather than ruining my Friday night. And if the weather stays the way it is, people will be outside, they probably won't be in watching this. If it starts raining on Friday and you see this market up, then you need to get onto it straight away on the over.
Absolutely. Chris, you back TV ratings. Just for people at home, how do they decide what the viewership is? Is that the peak number of viewers?
I'm not sure actually, Nick. That's a very, very key point, whether that's peak viewing or average figure.
And our market's definitely based on the peak. It'll be based on the peak.
There's going to be a huge difference for this because it's a 3-hour ceremony. I've just been told that those were average figures, so I really like under 22 million for the average.
That's in that case, then whichever bookmaker that is, and I'm pretty sure it's not us on that graphic. They might have got that a bit wrong.
Okay, jump in. We're finding lots of value. It's all at short prices. You're going to have to accept them, I'm afraid. All better than you'll get in the Building Society right now, I promise you of that. Let's move on and talk about who's going to win the medals. We're going to talk about countries. Most gold medals is the market that we're going to look at. Chris, do you want to actually just cover that off before we start chatting?
Yeah, so this is very much a two-horse race, USA against China, two superpowers of the world. And China have been getting shorter and shorter at the betting here, and I think that's right, I really do. USA is as big as 4 to 6 now. China won this race by 15, this effective race, by 15 back in 2008. I think they accrued 51 gold medals. Now, I'm not convinced that that home advantage played such a big part in that, the gap of 15. The USA medals I've been noticing since Sydney have pretty much been 37, 36, 35 each time, so they're pretty much stagnant in terms of the total, whereas China are just progressing games by games, getting bigger and bigger, like they are in society generally, I guess, and culturally and economically. They're becoming more powerful and more of an influence in the world, and I think, for me, China, for me, here at 6 to 5 is definitely the shout. 15 clear in 2008, that's a big gap to bridge.
It is a big gap to bridge. Different country, obviously, that we're going to have these Olympics in. What do you think?
Absolutely. We went through how much home advantage is actually worth, and there was a study by Goldman Sachs saying it was worth 54% on your gold medals, but they only looked at the Athens Olympics and the Sydney Olympics in that, and you're talking about two countries there that were at home with small populations or smaller populations. So Australia to double theirs, or to 54%, to get 54% on top of what they'd achieved before wasn't much, because it was probably the difference between 4 and 8 or 4 and 9. And the same thing for Greece, 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 actual golds. With China, to say that theirs were going to increase by 54 was ridiculous, because they were already dominating in plenty of sports. So it did drop off there. I actually think that the way that this market is shaped, China are in for a lot of odds-on golds where it will be an absolute shock if they get beaten.
Right.
So they've got a nice base to start.
Defence that
they've got a nice base to start from, where it would be almost impossible for them to not have a base of about 15, 17 golds, where they're long odds on to actually get that off to a start. Whereas the USA are favourites for lots of events, which has accumulated into the mean favourites for the gold medal price. But actually, in those events, they have other contenders that could actually knock them off on that. So they really have to perform to achieve all their goals, whereas China could just end up with 15, 17 straight away because they're such a short price.
I like your reasoning. A couple of good, strong recommendations of China. Actually, I must ask you, on your market, Russia and Great Britain, both 50 to 1.
Yeah.
Not the most generous price in the world,
do you know what? It doesn't take a lot to actually... I think that our overall view is that Great Britain won't actually do that well, and our under-over price reflects that when we come to the medals. But looking at the actual total gold medals, it doesn't take a lot. We've been laying that down from 150. It doesn't take many bets at 150 to 1, then 100 to 1, then 80, then 66 to build up a big market. Now, that's the kind of market that the guy trading that would have to go in and explain if he lost a lot of money on. The best way to get with England in that respect is to get with Great Britain. Just heard Chris there, our Scottish correspondent over there. I must remember the other countries involved. But I think the best way to do that, if you think that Great Britain are going to actually win the gold medal table, I can't see them doing it. But if you think they are, you need to back them in accumulators in the big price individual events.
Well, we'll talk more about Team GB in the next part. We're going to pick out a couple of markets for you now, a couple of the bigger, more interesting things. We're going to start with the swimming, and Michael Phelps going for some historic totals. Chris, you got a market for us for this?
I do indeed, Nick, and this is going to be one of the stories of the Games. Michael Phelps, of course, he took 8 gold medals back in Beijing. They only going for 7 events this particular time, 4 individual and 3 really. But he's got a rival this time. You know, he's not cantering to 8 gold medals like he did 4 years ago. He's got another. There's a new kid in the block, and his name's Ryan Lochte, and he's an American as well, shame, but he's taking on Michael Phelps here. Phelps going for 7 goals, like I say. The US team not quite as dominant and expected to be in the relays this year as they were in 2008, so not expected to win the 3 relay competitions. And I think Lochte can definitely take 1 or 2 golds off him here. He beat him, I think, 2-0 in the World Championships when they raced each other twice in the World Championships last year. Lochte won both times. So for me, out the 7, I'm going under 4.5 gold, even money, the better price, purely because the US team not quite as dominant, and 2, there's a new kid on the block, and his name's Ryan Lochte. Not as good a game for Phelps.
Interesting stuff. Going against Michael Phelps at the Olympics, though.
Yes,
I'm wary.
A strategy that wouldn't have paid off in the last couple, but he is maybe just over his peak now. Incredible athlete, incredible swimmer, and you know, an incredible Olympian who is now going for, well, he should come out of these games with over 15 golds. But I agree with Chris's reasoning, and maybe the price to take there is the under 4.5. Maybe that line's been pitched a bit high, but it is quite related, because I suppose if he beats Lochte once, then he's probably got the measure of him twice, and so you really are gambling on that. Maybe backing Lochte individually in the races you think he will perform better against Phelps is the best way to go if you're playing the Phelps market.
Okay. Great advice, as ever, for punters. Let's move on to probably the biggest, the blue-ribboned event, I guess, of the Games, the men's 100 metres, Chris. Is Usain Bolt going to get beat?
I think there's a possibility, I really do. This is so exciting. Oh, are you as excited as me out there? Because I'm seriously excited about this. We've changed events here, but I think we're talking about the 100. There we go. These guys are good. There we go, there's the odds. Usain Blake against Johan Blake. I've just talked about Phelps against Lochte. This, though, is the big rivalry of the 2012 Olympic Games. Usain Bolt against Johan Blake. Bolt, the big man, of course, one of the most famous sportsmen in the world, won in 2008. But this Johan Blake, he seems to have just like been talked about like he's just some guy who just came out from nowhere. He won the World Championships last year in Daegu, of course, when Blake Fall started. And he's beaten Usain Bolt twice in the Jamaican trials this year, both times in the 100 metres and the 200 metres. He is seriously progressive. He's younger. he was best mates with Usain Bolt, but they're not training quite as close as they were a couple of months ago. The pressure's getting to them, but it's whether you're taking Bolt, the established Olympic champion, or you're going with the form guy, the progressive guy, the guy who's coming up here to take him on at 13-8. For me, Bolt is a very backable price at 8-11. Who would have foresaw this? I mean, I expected him to be 1-8 6 months ago. So now he's a very, very backable price. But Johan Blake, let's give that guy respect. 13-8, and he's beaten Bolt twice already this year.
Okay, where are you in this very controversial market?
It's one that's moved as well. Bolt as short as 3-1 on at one stage, and he has drifted. And after the trials, he reached his biggest price, and that was still available in places yesterday, which was 4-5. You will now see his best price is 8-11.
So it's
I'm not sure whether they were watching yesterday and saw the butler up there saying that this is one of the best bets of all time, because that 4-5 has disappeared. He's now 8-11. The price on Blake got far too short. It was possibly value on the basis that you got full starts in there. You've got the fact that Bolt is a bit of a slow starter. His first 40 metres are never as quick as his rivals, but you see him power towards the end. That's why he's often much better prospect in the 200 metres.
Okay, really interesting stuff. I've got to love Usain Bolt at that price. I'm with the butler on this one. Amazing stuff. Could look very, very big come, August the 5th, they run the 100 metres, I think. Usain Bolt, fastest man in the world, at a good price. Who'd have thunk it? We're going to talk more Olympics, specifically Team GB, after this break. Great to have you back for more punting. We're talking about the Olympics and we're talking Team GB. The hopes of a nation rest on a few elite athletes. They did amazingly well in the last Olympics. Can they better it at this one on home turf? Alan, it's an interesting subject because we've talked on the Punter about patriotic money. We talked about it at the Euros, talked about it with other things. How much are we going to see here? I get the feeling that you might, because there's going to be so many casual punters, you might see some odds shifted to places they shouldn't be in various markets. Absolutely.
And also, now we were talking about Euro 2012, but the reason that we said that the money disappeared for Euro 2012, not just because England are a poor football team at the moment, but we get to see all the other football teams and people have access to La Liga, and they watch plenty of other football from around the world. You've got access to all the games that you want, so you don't necessarily just know about one team. So back in 1998 in France, we saw England and Scotland punted off the boards, but in reality, it's a wide spread of money now, and we are a lot further down the line, more sophistication.
So it's a fantastic point,
but not in the Olympics.
Yeah, because obviously, like people know Tom Daley,
exactly,
but they don't have a clue who he's competing against.
Exactly, and that's going to be a big factor here because we're not as sophisticated in our knowledge of diving, of archery, of rowing, and even to some extent in the events that we see quite often throughout the athletics, like the 5,000 metres and the 10,000 metres. I think Mo Farah is a false price in both of those markets.
Okay.
He's up against some young, good Ethiopians, especially in the 5,000. I think the butler was saying yesterday that Mo Farah's time in the 5,000 in recent rankings is only about the 10th best. He's the 6-4 favourite. So, and that's our athletics guy making him the shortest price. And so I totally disagree with my own firm stance on this one.
Really interesting, and really interesting to see how patriotic money goes over the Olympics. Chris, for once we are united in our patriotism, no?
Yeah, I would say so, Nick. I would say so. I'm very, very, very excited about these upcoming games. And I watched the show last night, and Nigel's cynicism and bad attitude towards Team GB made me angry. I'm right behind the British boys and girls.
That is nice to see from a Scottish person.
Yeah.
Now, give us some ways of betting on Team GB if we're feeling patriotic.
Here we go. So total Great Britain gold medals. This is a big ask at the line, to be honest. 22.5, 19 in Beijing, just 9 in Athens, 11 in Sydney. And guess how many in Atlanta? Can you remember?
It's something like
just one gold medal in 1996. So you see how things have grown here. So, but 19 in Beijing, very much overachieved. Can we achieve even higher here in 2012. It's a big ask for me, 22.5. I think the country will get behind the team, and I think we will see some surprising results, surprising gold medals. I really hope so. But for me, that's such a big total, 22.5. So I'd have to be under, I'm afraid.
I think this is a fascinating problem because, you know, you've got two competing forces. One is that we, as Chris has just said, we massively overachieved last time. The other is that the home country usually gets an uplift. So how do you square that circle?
They usually get an uplift, but we were talking about three nations with slightly different mentalities. Now, the Butler mentioned mentality last night, and this is why I was with him. I don't want to go down the cynical route. I mean, Chris is quite right to say let's all get behind them, but I think the British attitude, apart from the cycling, where we are proven winners, will mean that the extra pressure of being at home will outweigh the advantage of being on your home track. And bear in mind, it's not as if these runners run at the Olympic Stadium all the time. They'll have just as much experience of it. I don't doubt that they've been down there to have a look around more so than the other athletes from the other competing nations. But it's not like it's an extensive training base for us. It's only just been completed. So I can't really see that. The Weymouth guys, the rowing, well, the sailing, most nations come to Weymouth in the summer to actually to train there out in the bay. So actually, the home advantage means nothing there. The Americans come over and train there all the time. I think under 22.5 is one of the best bets you will ever have at the Olympics, and it's also nice insurance for being disappointed in front of the TV.
That's true. I love bets like that. Always bet against your emotions, 100% against your.
As a Liverpool fan, you must be absolutely
you know how
minted
I roll.
at the moment.
Well, you know how I roll. I always oppose them if I can. It's been a brutal 28 years. Let's look at some individual athletes from Team GB, shall we, if you fancy betting on them. Chris, you got those for us?
I do indeed. Here we go. So the favourite here, Alistair Brownlee and Trevor Harris, of course, who presents the show when Nick's in Malta and sitting in a jacuzzi, sunning himself with loads of girls. He'll explain later.
It's exactly what I do.
Yeah. Trevor, the host here, big triathlon fan, a real expert on triathlon. He said to me that Brownlee should be 1 to 5. Now you just think about that, 1 to 5, and it's 8 to 15 here. So that is a dead set, according to our expert, Trevor Harris, who tipped up Ernie Els to win the Open as well. So that boy knows his stuff. So listen to Trevor Harris. He says 8 to 15 is a great bet. The rest were struggling here. Tom Daly's star seems to have fallen a wee bit, even though that very moving documentary last night on BBC One. If I was to have a bet here, it probably would be Lewis Smith here at 72. He got bronze in the pommel horse back in 2008, you'll recall. He was just 19 then, just a teenager. 4 years more experience under his belt. He's been very competitive in the main gymnastics event. And at 72, not a bad shout. So that would be where I'd put my money, alongside the good thing that's Alistair Brownlee.
Interesting. More value at short prices. Al, anyone else that you picked out? Mo Farah, someone to oppose?
Yeah.
Anyone on that list or anyone else in Team GB you think is interesting from a betting point of view?
Well, Alistair Brownlee at the top of that list is one of our biggest liabilities. So they've obviously followed in Trevor and his tip. He's into 8 to 15 now to win the gold. You'll see the other Brownlee there. I think his brother's name is Jonathan. Is that correct, Chris?
That's correct, Alan, yeah.
Jonathan. Now, we are really cheering on Jonathan. We are massively with Jonathan in this triathlon to beat his brother, because his brother has been punted off the boards. So we're with I think he's the younger brother, or are they twins? But we're with him, definitely, Jonathan.
Okay, really interesting stuff, big liability in the triathlon of all events. Now, we've got some more medal specials, I think. Chris, you want to take us through those, a couple of them?
We do. I started to research this earlier on, and it just came across a bit of a lottery here. So which medal will Great Britain collect most of? Gold, bronze or silver? And some firms are actually 74 all three, but you're getting better value here. 74 favourite gold, bronze 15 to 8, and silver there at 2 to 1. To be honest, and I hate saying this because I like research and I love stats, but it's a bit of a lottery. It was gold in 2000, it was bronze in 2004, gold in 2008. It doesn't seem to be that much of a sort of a backup in terms of knowledge, and basically I don't have the time to go through every single event, unfortunately. Life's too short. So it's a toss-up for me. I'd probably back silver 2 to 1 because it's the biggest price.
Biggest price in lottery sounds like the right way to go, I think.
Yeah, I would actually go with bronze probably in this one. our guys that actually put the research into it, the gold one's very easy. You're obviously adding up a number of the prices. Then you're getting down into the each way. Now, if you're not winning gold, but you're performing well enough to get close to the gold, then you're going to get the silvers anyway. So, a lot of the events where Team GB have got a good chance, I think there's more of a chance of a blowout or a gold. So it's what you would call the each way syndrome. With some horses, they either win races or they're completely tailed off. And a lot of the Team GB athletes look like that from the prospect of the gold, silver and bronze. But I think if you averaged it out and you looked at some of the events, we are about third favourites in quite a lot of events.
Okay.
So if the market goes with it, it is bronze. But it's not a market I like, to be honest, because I think Chris is right. He shouldn't have wasted any time researching it, because I think it's a poor market and it is a bit of a lottery.
Okay, let's see if we can find a better one then, with where the Great British team will finish in the medal table. I think it was their highest ever finish last time when they finished 4th, which is ridiculous when you consider the size of our countries. Chris, what is it looking like this time?
Yeah, spot on, Nick. It was our greatest ever achievement, finishing 4th in the medal table back in 2008. Fascinating market for me with this one, much better than the last one we just looked at. 2-to-1 top 3, that's very, very short for me. I think a big ask to even match what we did in 2008, 4th, the 5-to-4 favourite. I'd have to set our sights a wee bit lower, I'm afraid, and I think we'll finish in 5th place. I think that's still a reasonable target. We could even supersede our 19 golds we took in Beijing in 2008. Still finished 5th place. So 6-to-1 5th for me. And remember, I told you about the 1996 Olympic Games. We took just 1 gold medal. We finished 36th in the table back then. Weren't we such an embarrassing nation back in the 1990s?
Are you talking about England or Scotland?
Always England.
Always England, yeah, I knew it. Al, this is a fun market to bet on, I think. Good interest through the games, this one.
This is a good one, and obviously the 1st and 3rd, you are effectively betting 3rd, because we saw from the market earlier
1 and 2
yeah, 1 and 2 look to be set either way round, China, USA. So that's that price you're actually taking 3rd. The 6-to-1 5th and the 10-to-1 6th means that you're backing them both coupled at about 100 to 30, just over 3-to-1, which is probably quite a good bet, because it's only really 3rd and 4th that are going to beat you there. They most likely won't finish any lower. I can't think of any nations that will really outperform.
Right.
I think Australia and Germany are the 2 that could be challenging in around us. Russia are the ones that are competing with us for 3rd place. You've got USA and China there. So I really do think that 5th and 6th gives you a lovely little gap at what is a very reasonable price.
Just to check one thing, we'll definitely beat France.
Absolutely.
That's my main concern. Fantastic. After the break, some match play darts and a few interesting football markets as well. Stick with us on the Punter. Welcome back to the last part of the Punter. Boo. But we've got lots more exciting betting markets for you. Yay. So let's check them out. We're going to do some darts, something I know a tremendous amount about. It's a lie. But it is a great sport to punt on. As we've talked about it before on the Punter, you get fantastic swings while you watch the darts. And it's a growing sport for betting, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it has stayed around the top 5 or 6 sports all the time. And other sports dip in and out and have sort of a renaissance, but darts has always been there as a main staple, just underneath those ones you'd expect, like football, greyhounds and horse racing.
OK, well, Chris knows a lot about darts. Fill us in. What's going on and what are the prices, Chris?
Yeah, this is the World Match Play Championship, so you catch me here. I'm in Blackpool. I actually went to Blackpool for my summer holiday in 1993. It was like Vegas when you come to a place like Dumfries, but this is one of the this is one of the majors in the darting calendar. The World Match Play Championships always takes place in late July every year. Phil Taylor, as you'd imagine, the strong favourite here at 5-to-4. He's got through to the 2nd round after beating Mervyn King last night in a quite unconvincing display. Adrian Lewis, double world champion, of course, there at 9-2, and. My sources at Sport and Bet told me that a guy who won last night, a guy called Ian White, who's just started to show his prowess after many years. Somebody had £50 each way at him, 100-1 earlier this afternoon after he beat Vincent van der Voort in the 1st round. So some people Very keen on Ian White, but it's Phil Taylor, of course, who's the favourite.
Yeah, he just seems to be the favourite for darts events, has been for many, many years. Al, how do you find value in the darts, and have you got any insight into this market?
I would always bet darts markets in running, because
Right.
I would rather watch the first round and see how a player's playing, because they tend to carry their form through the events. And I think that with Taylor's someone that builds slowly into events. As Chris was saying last night, he was just slightly off what his normal pace would be, but that's usually still good enough. And also, just looking through the markets there's a lot of each way value. I mean, we've started offering Taylor or not Taylor as a two-way market on every event, so you can back the field all the time against Taylor, and our prices are usually about right. You know, it's because it's a two-way market. You probably need to focus on one that you don't think he's going to win, or he's going to, or you fancy him to win, to actually get to attack that market. But that's a good market. But I think the each-way value outside of Taylor, working out who he's going to meet in the final, is usually the best way to play it.
Ah, yeah, good tip. Very good tip, sussing out the market. Let's look at some individual match odds then for the World Match Play. Chris, take us through a couple of matches.
Yeah, a couple of matches coming up just after we go off air later on tonight. 9 o'clock, one I like, I'll mention that at the end. 10 o'clock, Dave Chisnell, one of the real PDC newcomer, and you got newcomer of the year in 2012, came for the BDO, been playing really well, up against Ronnie Baxter here, who's really struggling. Baxter, first time he's been at the top 16. He got to the final here in 1998, but Chisnell deserved to be favourite. If you want to back Baxter at the price, he's done well recently. He won a floor event 3 weeks ago, and then he got finished runner-up in an event last week, so he is in decent form. But the one I like at 9 o'clock, he had Dean Winstanley, 7-4. Gary Anderson, great Gary Anderson, but he's had a wretched 2012 and erratic World Championships. He only got to the last 32 in the UK Open. He finished bottom of the Premier League, and he's suffering with eye problems as well, which is quite fitting because he comes from Eyemouth in the Scottish borders. But anyway, I would oppose Gary Anderson here. I'd get involved with the 74 Dean Winstanley. I gave you Robert Thornton on Saturday night, of course, to beat Adrian Lewis. He lost 10-0, but we'll try again. So Dean Winstanley, 7-4 for me.
Chris, just if he's having such a bad year, why is Anderson so short?
He's just a much better player, Nick.
Right.
He's beaten Taylor. He's top
thing
in the world.
I think the thing is, Nick, if he wasn't in normal circumstances against a player that's come out of the BDO, runner-up in the BDO last year, Dean Winstanley, he'd probably be about 3-1 on if he wasn't suffering from these problems.
Okay, great stuff. Let's move on and look at some football bets. Obviously pretty quiet on the football front, but we've got to the stage with football markets where you can bet on where individual players will play next. This all started with managers, but we're going to move on to actually betting on where players will finish up. Transfer speculation, the most fun activity of the off-season. Chris, where are you?
I don't know. Oh, here I am. I'm in Fleetwood, I think.
You're in Fleetwood?
Yeah, Fleetwood, the new Crawley, of course.
Yeah, you get around. You're talking about Joey Barton.
Yeah, unfortunately, if I have to. But yeah, I've been told I have to talk about Joey Barton, which is probably the least favourite thing in my life. But there we go. Co-favourites of 4, Joey Barton's next club. He'll be kicked out of QPR, you imagine, after his disgraceful antics last May and on Twitter most weeks. Blackburn, Blackpool, West Brom, West Ham, 12-1 co-favourites here. 14-1 Southampton, Reading and Wolves at 20, Bolton 25. I can't see Coventry in this list, Nick. I can't see Coventry because, believe you me, I want to send Barton to Coventry.
Nice.
Somebody laugh.
Yeah, I get it. Let's get Al's view on this. Where's Joey Barton going?
Well, I spent a lot of time at that stadium last year.
At Fleetwood?
That's Fleetwood's Highbury ground. They obviously won our Blue Square Bet Premier, so I went to about 10 of their games there last year. Got to know one of their strikers very well. Good man, been in our division a long while. Top scorer in our division about 4 years ago, Andy Mangan. He's best friends with Joey, and
inside information.
That's exactly why Joey has gone there. Andy's a bit of a calming influence on Joey, and he's just obviously offered him to train with the club. Very unlikely that he'll end up at Fleetwood, but he's going to train there. He needs to sign on for a club to make the ban evaporate. If he doesn't sign on for a club, it will carry over until he's actually signed up for a club and they play 12 first-team matches.
Did Andy Mangan tell you where he's going to go?
So now, here's the problem here. Andy doesn't get involved with betting anymore.
Oh.
Google it.
Okay.
But the thing here is that he could just could end up at Fleetwood by default, because
Right.
he does need to sign for a club to get this ban to expire. Now, whoever he signed up for, once they've played 12 league games, his ban will expire. Now, if that actually doesn't come to pass by the time the season starts, then Fleetwood may as well sign him, because it's more beneficial for him than for Fleetwood to be somewhere. That would mean that he wouldn't be able to move until the 1st of January, and if he can't, that means he's got about 8 other league games where he could effectively put on a Fleetwood shirt.
So a little interesting bet on Fleetwood, maybe. That's fun. Let's look at what promises to be one of the big transfers of the summer. People are talking about it right now. He's back with Tottenham Hotspur. Luka Modric doesn't look like he'll be there very long. Chris?
Not at all. He's been very, very naughty and annoyed AVB and Daniel Levy by not turning up to the plane for the Tottenham's US tour. So next club or club to start the season with, I guess this market will be Real Madrid, of course. Long odds on here at 1-7. That's where he's touted to go next. 11-10 that he stays at Tottenham, kicks off at Tottenham next season. Is that you can get 3-1, I think, with some other firms, which is you might think is big, but. And 5-1 Man United. Man United always kind of been linked with Luka Modric over the last couple of seasons. That's 5-1. But Real Madrid looking a good thing here for the man who's upset Daniel Levy. What a shame, eh?
Yeah, not an easy thing to do. That was ironic. This is one of those things that just seems nailed on. Real Madrid have a certain way of doing this, don't they? They basically get the player to agree, and then they just put pressure in the press, and you see this over and over again.
Yeah, you do, and you talk about tapping players up, but they're the absolute masters at it. And you know, Manchester United used to send players shirts with their name on the back just to get them used to, you know, seeing a Man U shirt. One thing I will say about this market, first and foremost, is that the graphics you've got there, some firms will have Tottenham as void bet.
Okay.
So that's why you've got a hell of a lot of percentage in there, because Tottenham are in there 11-10.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
11-10 with 7-1 on obviously means lots of profit for the bookmakers. But you'll find that the ones that are 7-1 on Real Madrid probably have Tottenham as void bet in their market.
So it's only if he moves.
So it's only if he moves that will actually pay out as a winning bet, and if it doesn't, you'll get your bet refunded. I can't see him staying in this country. I think that Villas-Boas will insist that he moves out the country.
Okay.
His stats for Tottenham last year are poor, though, Nick.
Yeah, he's quite a player, though. I'm sure he'll do well for Real Madrid. Big thanks to Alan Alger of Blue Square and Chris Graham, our betting expert. That's all the show we've got for you. Enjoy the Olympics, enjoy your punting, and there'll be more Punter very soon.